Welcome to the second lesson on web automation using Leapwork. In our previous lesson, we learned about the creation of basic flows for sign-in functionality. I hope you were able to successfully create the flow. In this lesson, we will explain why reusability is so important and how you can achieve it with Leapwork. Reusability in automation refers to the ability to reuse building blocks, files, and assets in other flows. Reusability is important in automation because it can improve the efficiency, consistency, and maintainability of your automation efforts. Let's take an example. An application that has the entire functionality implemented behind login requires sign-in to be executed in every flow. If we repeat the same blocks for login again and again in multiple flows, then we end up in duplication of the same blocks in multiple flows. And if the developer makes a small change in the login feature, then we must manually change all those blocks we duplicated, thereby consuming our majority time in maintenance. In Leapwork, we can achieve the same functionality without having such maintainability by creating reusable building blocks called subflows. This lesson will learn how to create and use reusable subflows. We'll continue to use the flow we created in Lesson 1. Let's get started. Here is the flow we created in Lesson 1. Performing a login could be part of many web automation flows. In some cases, many flows will include a login at the very start of the flow, so the login process is typically a good candidate for a reusable subflow. To create a subflow, select the building blocks that you want to use to make a reusable component. For example, in our flow, we'll select the blocks that perform the sign-in function, from entering the username to clicking the No button. Once the blocks are selected, right-click on the canvas and select Create Subflow. By default, the name of the subflow is suggested as New Subflow. Please ensure to give it a meaningful name so that it's easy to find later. Let's name it Sign In and click Save. Now we see that all the selected building blocks are wrapped up into one new building block named Sign In. The subflow is created. Let's see where and how we can reuse the created subflow in our other flows. Suppose we want to create a flow to add the lease. For that, we need to sign in first. There, we can call the above created subflow first and continue with our creation. Let's create the new flow first. Here we are. Move to the canvas and do the steps to add the new block after the Start block. In the Add New Building Block menu, go to the end and click on the Subflows category, and you get the subflow Sign In, which we have created above. Select the Sign In subflow. The subflow is added to the new flow. We can continue the flow creation as we do in the previous lesson. Now, the next question comes to mind, how we would edit the subflow. To edit the subflow, you right-click on the subflow on the canvas and select the Edit Subflow option, and you can see the subflow is opened in the editable mode. The other way to open the subflow is by double-clicking the subflow from the Explorer pane. We have seen how we can reuse the subflow and are open to editing. Now we are going to look at another very useful feature with subflows called parameterization. Instead of hard-coding the values inside the subflow, we can define input parameters to the subflow that helps us in passing a different set of data to the same subflow. In this case, if we use parameters, we can also pass different credentials to log in to D365 to test user-based scenarios. Adding a parameter is very easy. Simply add a value input building block by right-clicking on the canvas and clicking Add Building Block. Select the value input block that lies under the category Module Input and Output. Once the block is visible on the canvas, we can rename the block by double-clicking on the header of the block and renaming it to Email, as we are using this for an email address. As a best practice, it is always good to provide a logical name. There are blue connectors available on the blocks. They are used for transferring values and properties between building blocks. Drag the blue connector of the email value input block to the text field of the Type Web Text block where we entered the email of the user. Connecting the parameter block to the type web text means that any values passed as parameters to the email parameter will be further passed to type web text as a text. Let's repeat the same actions with the password field. Adding a value input block and renaming it to password. Then connecting the value input block data connector to the text value property of the type web text block contains the password. Now we created the two value input connectors for the subflow. Let's save the subflow and move back to the main flow. Aha! We can see that the custom block now has two new input parameters defined, email and password. Let's learn how to pass data to the subflow. There are two ways to pass the data to the subflow: by directly writing the values into the test box in the subflow, or by using set text or using a data provider like Excel to pass the value. Let's see how we can pass data to the subflow using a set text building block. To specify the email address, we use a set text building block and connect to the email property in the main flow. We get the set text block under the set value category. After adding the block, enter the email ID in the text field. After entering the value, connect the text value data connector of the set text block to the data connector of the email of the sign-in block. Similarly, we use the set text block for the password field as well. To secure the password from others, the only change we do in the set text block before providing the password is to set the type of text as a password. To achieve that, we expand the set text block and change the type to password. After changing the type to password, we enter the value in the text field, and you can see the value is masked. We are ready to run the login flow, this time using a reusable parameterized custom block. Let's click on Run to see the execution. The flow passed as expected. Let's see how to debug the flow with the subflow. Click on the log message for a block that is placed inside the subflow, and Leapwork will highlight the subflow. Double-clicking on the same log message will open the preview screen of the subflow with the highlighted relevant block. Using this technique, you can easily debug the subflows. Here are some benefits which subflows can bring to automation. Efficiency. By reusing existing flow assets, you can save time and effort compared to creating new flows from scratch every time. This can be especially useful for regression testing, where the same tests need to be run repeatedly. Consistency. Reusing flow assets can help ensure consistency across tests and test suites. This can help identify patterns and trends in test results more easily. Maintenance. When you have many flows, maintaining them can become a challenge. Reusing flow assets can make maintenance easier by reducing the number of tests you need to update. Scalability. Reusing flows assets can help you scale your testing efforts by enabling you to quickly create new tests or test suites by leveraging existing assets. Overall, in this lesson we learned how to design flow in a modular way with subflow so that changes can be made in one place and applied across multiple tests. How to parameterize a subflow by passing input values from outside to a subflow. How to create an efficient, maintainable, reliable, and scalable flow. We suggest you try replicating this flow on your own by following the video. Happy automation!